Have you ever walked away from a conversation and something just didn't sit right in your gut? Maybe it was the way someone smiled too wide, spoke too sweetly, or offered words that sounded nice, but felt hollow. It's that strange moment when your heart says, "Thank you," but your instincts whisper, "Be careful." As we get older, we learn to trust that whisper more. Life teaches us that not everyone who calls you friend is truly in your corner. Some people don't show their true colors right away. They blend in, play nice, and say all the right things until you're no longer useful or you stop fitting their narrative. That's when the mask starts to slip. And the funny thing is, it's not the big betrayals that hurt the most. It's the little things. The quiet manipulation, the way someone uses certain phrases to disguise envy, control the conversation, or make you doubt yourself. That's what we're talking about today. These aren't just empty words, they're clues. Clues that help you spot who's really for you and who's just performing. Let's start with one. That sounds harmless on the surface. You're lucky. You've probably heard that one before. Maybe after you finally got your health back on track, or when your kids started doing well, or maybe when you reached a goal that took years of quiet struggle to achieve. You're lucky, they say. And sure, maybe there was a little luck involved, but deep down, you know what that really was. That was sacrifice. That was discipline. That was doing the hard thing over and over when no one else was looking. The truth is, people who say you're lucky often aren't admiring you. They're minimizing you. They're avoiding the uncomfortable truth that your success came from work. Because if they admitted that, it would shine a light on their own choices and what they haven't done. So instead, they wrap it up in that neat little phrase, "You're lucky." And that phrase becomes a way for them to protect their ego while taking a jab at your effort. I once heard a story about a man who woke up every single morning at 5 a.m. for years, not because he had to, but because he had a dream. While others slept in, he was building. While others complained, he was learning. He faced rejection, self-doubt, and even loneliness, but he never stopped. Eventually, his dream turned into something real. And you know what people said when they saw him succeed? "Man, you're lucky." But they didn't see the years of quiet mornings, the failed attempts, the nights he cried alone and still got up the next day. That's not luck, that's grit. So the next time someone calls you lucky, don't get angry, just smile. Because it tells you more about their mindset than yours. People who say that often don't want to believe that effort matters. But deep down, they know it does. And that's what makes them uncomfortable. Here's another one. "You can tell me anything." Sounds comforting, doesn't it? Like a warm blanket of trust. We all want someone who listens, who holds space for our pain without judgment. But not everyone who says, "You can tell me anything," actually means it. Some people collect your secrets, not because they care, but because they want leverage. They'll listen, nod, even say all the right things. And then one day, a piece of your story starts floating around, twisted just enough to hurt. It starts small. You share something vulnerable, maybe about your health, your past, your family. They lean in, they promise it's between us. But later, you hear whispers. Someone repeats something only that person knew. That's when you realize your words were never safe. They were currency. There's a kind of person who seems trustworthy, not because they've proven it, but because they know how to act like it. They study you, your weaknesses, your fears, not to support you, but to store that information for later. And when the timing suits them, they'll use it. Not always in an obvious way. Sometimes just a quiet comment in the right circle. Just enough to raise doubt, just enough to make you look bad without getting their hands dirty. If that's ever happened to you, you're not alone. And it doesn't mean you were foolish to trust. It means someone else misused the gift you gave them. But here's what you can do next time. Don't rush to share. Don't assume someone's safe just because they seem sweet. Watch how they talk about others. Do they gossip easily? Do they always seem to know everyone's business? Because chances are, they'll do the same with yours. A truly safe person doesn't need to say, "You can tell me anything." You'll feel it in how they show up, in how they protect what you've already shared, in how they treat your silence with the same respect as your voice. Let's talk about another phrase you've probably heard if you've ever stood up for yourself. Everyone agrees with me. That one's sneaky. It's used to isolate you, to make you think you're the only one who feels the way you do. And for a moment, it can work. You start second-guessing yourself. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I am overthinking this. But let's pause for a second. Who exactly is everyone? Most of the time, no one. It's a smokescreen, a vague crowd invented to back up an insecure opinion. The person saying it knows that if they stood alone, their argument would fall apart. So they bring in the imaginary army. People are saying, "We've all noticed. Others agree with me." It's manipulation wrapped in confidence. But confidence without honesty is just noise. Years ago, a woman worked in a small office where her ideas were constantly dismissed by one of her colleagues. He'd interrupt, talk over her, and make subtle jabs. When she finally addressed it, he said, "Everyone agrees with me. They think you're too pushy." For a moment, she felt crushed. Maybe he was right. But later, other co-workers quietly told her they admired her courage. They were just too afraid to speak up. That's when she saw the truth. Some people use everyone as a weapon because their own voice isn't strong enough to stand alone. So here's the key. When someone uses that line, don't argue. Just ask, "Who exactly?" You'll often find there's no one. And if there is, let them speak for themselves. When your heart is clear and your intentions are honest, you don't need the crowd. You just need your own alignment. Because truth isn't measured by how many people say it. It's measured by whether it's real. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand alone. Now let's move to another phrase that often flies under the radar because it's dressed up like humor. It's the one that goes, "Relax, I was just joking." You've probably heard this one more than a few times in your life. Someone makes a sharp comment, something that stings a little, and when you pause or push back, they wave it off with a smile and say, "Oh, come on, don't be so serious. I was only joking." But here's the truth. Not all jokes come from a good place. Some are just disguised jabs. Little stabs at your confidence, your decisions, your appearance, or your dreams. And when you react, they flip it on you. Suddenly, you're the one who can't take a joke. That's the trap. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. What's happening in that moment isn't humor. It's testing. That person is testing how much disrespect you'll tolerate under the mask of playfulness. Because if you laugh it off, they know they can push further next time, and they will. I remember a story about a man who had a so-called friend who loved to make fun of his business dreams. Every time he shared a new idea, the friend would chuckle and say, "Really? You think you can pull that off?" Everyone around would laugh, and to keep the peace, he'd laugh too. But those jokes started planting seeds of doubt. Over time, he stopped sharing his goals. He started shrinking a little. Years later, when his business finally took off, that same friend said, "You know I was just kidding, right?" But here's the thing, words don't forget. Especially the ones that came disguised as jokes but were rooted in envy. There's a lesson here. Pay attention to how people joke when you're vulnerable. If their humor consistently comes at your expense, that's not friendship. That's cruelty wearing a smile. When someone says, "I was just joking," don't rush to forgive or forget. Observe. Are their jokes always directed at others' weaknesses Do they build you up or chip away at you? And if it happens repeatedly, you don't need to fight. Just step back. Your silence will say more than your words ever could. Now let's look at another phrase that's often used in the same way, meant to make you question yourself, not them. You're overreacting. It's a simple sentence, 5 words, but the damage they cause can last for years. Because this isn't just someone disagreeing with your feelings, it's someone trying to rewrite your experience, to make you doubt your own sense of what's right, what's fair, and what's real. Think about it. You express hurt, frustration, or concern, and instead of listening, they dismiss you. You're overreacting. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about what they did. It's about how you responded. The spotlight shifts, and you're left wondering, am I being too emotional? Maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. That's not just frustrating, it's manipulative, because it places the blame, not on their behavior, but on your reaction to it. Let's take a real-world example. Say you trusted someone with personal information, and they turned around and shared it. You confront them calmly, respectfully. You explain how that crossed a line for you, and they smirk and say, "Relax. You're overreacting. It wasn't even a big deal." Now you're the problem for speaking up. That's how people get silenced. That's how you start questioning your own boundaries. But here's the truth. You're not overreacting when you call out disrespect. You're not overreacting when something hurts you. You're reacting honestly to something that crossed your line. It's okay to care about how you're treated. It's okay to want honesty, respect, and loyalty. Those aren't unreasonable expectations. Those are the basics. If someone repeatedly tells you that your feelings are too much, they're not being rational. They're avoiding accountability. And here's something important to remember. Calmness isn't always kindness. Some people stay calm while pushing your buttons, just so you'll look like the emotional one when you finally snap. That's not peace. That's control. So what do you do when someone throws that phrase at you? You pause. You breathe. And instead of explaining yourself, you simply decide who gets access to you moving forward. You don't have to defend your boundaries. You only need to honor them. And that leads us into another familiar line, one that usually comes with a concerned face and a disappointed tone. You've changed. Have you ever been told that as if it were something shameful? As if growing, healing, setting boundaries, or pursuing new dreams somehow made you a worse person? You've changed. It's a phrase that often comes not from observation, but from resistance. Resistance to your evolution. Resistance to the fact that you're no longer playing small or staying stuck in a role that served them. People who say that usually mean, "You're no longer who I can control," or "You're no longer making me comfortable by staying where you were." Here's a reality check. You're supposed to change. That's what living does to you. That's what healing does. If you're still the same person at 65 that you were at 45, something's wrong. Growth isn't just a choice. It's a necessity. When someone says, "You've changed," they may not realize they're revealing their own fear of being left behind. Your confidence, your clarity, your new standards, they unsettle them. I once heard about a woman who had spent years saying yes to everyone. She was the dependable one, always available, never asking for anything in return. But one day, after a lot of quiet soul-searching, she started saying no. No to the takers, no to the guilt trips, no to the expectations that drained her. And you know what people said? You've changed. And she had. She was finally choosing herself. So if someone says those words to you like it's a bad thing, just smile gently. Because change, real change, means you're listening to your inner compass more than their outer opinion. You're not here to stay the same. You're here to become the truest version of yourself. And sometimes that means outgrowing people who are only comfortable with your smaller self. Let's pick up right where we left off. Another phrase that tends to show up when you're evolving, when you're growing stronger and more self-aware, is you're too sensitive. It's a quiet cut, not loud, not cruel on the surface, but it stings just the same. You speak up about something that hurt you, and instead of owning it or apologizing, they label you as the problem. You're too sensitive, they say, as if caring too much is a flaw. But here's the thing, sensitivity is not weakness. It's awareness. It means you feel things deeply. You notice the subtle shifts in tone, in energy, in how people show up. You see through the masks that others ignore. That's what makes some people uncomfortable. Because when you're tuned in emotionally, when you recognize patterns and pick up on hidden meanings, you can't be easily manipulated, and fake people know that. So instead of adjusting their behavior, they try to shame your perception. They don't want you to feel deeply, because your feelings might reveal something about them. Think about this. You open up. You share something real. Maybe a childhood wound, a regret, a hope. And instead of leaning in with compassion, they roll their eyes or laugh and say, "Oh wow, you're being dramatic. You're too sensitive." What they're really saying is, "Please stop seeing me clearly. Please stop noticing what I don't want to change." Because your sensitivity holds up a mirror, and not everyone is ready to look. But don't let that phrase shrink you. Being sensitive means you notice, you care, you're connected, and that's a beautiful thing. The key is learning how to manage that gift, to observe without absorbing, to feel without being consumed. That's not weakness, that's mastery. So the next time someone says, "You're too sensitive," you don't need to defend it. You don't need to toughen up or pretend not to care. Just remember, it takes strength to stay open in a world that encourages you to close. Your sensitivity is not a liability, it's your compass. Don't let anyone dull it. Now let's talk about one of the most comforting sentences someone can say, and one of the most misleading when it comes from the wrong person. "I support you no matter what." Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Like loyalty, like love. But that's the tricky part. Because some people say this not to lift you up, but to look good while you're rising, so long as your growth doesn't outshine them. "I support you no matter what" often means, "I support you until your success makes me uncomfortable, until your strength reminds me of my own stagnation." There was a woman who started a creative business after retirement. Her friends cheered her on at first, left comments, sent messages. "We're so proud of you." But as her work gained attention, as more people started noticing her, the silence grew louder. The same folks who used to clap fell quiet. Some even started making jokes. "Must be nice not to need a real job anymore." That's not support, that's envy in disguise. Real support doesn't disappear when you grow. It deepens. It shows up quietly, consistently, without applause. If someone truly supports you, they won't need to announce it. You'll feel it in the way they respect your time, in how they speak about you when you're not around, in how they never make you feel guilty for growing, changing, or choosing a path that's different from theirs. So when someone says, "I support you no matter what," pause. Don't let the sweetness of the phrase cloud your clarity. Let time show you if their words hold weight. Actions reveal more than promises ever could. That brings us to the final phrase, the one that sounds the most reassuring of them all. "I'd never lie to you." Oh, how many people have said those words while telling the biggest lies of all? The people who say this the most are often the ones who've already bent the truth, or plan to. Because when someone is truly honest, they don't need to convince you with declarations. Their actions speak for them. Their consistency builds trust over time, not with flair, but with quiet integrity. "I'd never lie to you" is sometimes said, not for your comfort, but for their image, to stop you from questioning, to lower your guard. And once your guard is down, that's when the damage is done. There was a man who trusted a close friend with everything. Stories, plans, mistakes. They had history. They had laughs. So when rumors started spreading and he asked the friend about it, he was met with a wide-eyed look and those 5 familiar words, "I'd never lie to you." And he wanted to believe it. But the truth came out anyway. And it wasn't just the lies that hurt. It was how easily they were spoken. Here's what we can learn from that. Honesty isn't proven by words. It's proven by alignment. When what someone says matches what they do. And when you feel you have to ask too many times, when their stories change, when your gut is whispering something's not right, believe it. The most dangerous lie isn't the one that hurts you. It's the one that makes you question your own clarity. And so, as we reflect on all of these phrases, you're lucky. You can tell me anything. Everyone agrees with me. I was just joking. You're overreacting. You've changed. You're too sensitive. I support you no matter what. I'd never lie to you. Each of them carries more than just words. They're patterns, they're signals. And the more you listen, not just to what's said, but to how you feel when it's said, the more clearly you'll see. Not everyone who speaks softly has good intentions. Not everyone who flatters you respects you. And not everyone who claims loyalty will stand by you when it's inconvenient. But here's the good news. You don't need everyone. You just need the truth. You need your peace, your dignity, your self-respect. You've spent decades learning, growing, loving, giving. You don't owe anyone your trust just because they ask for it. Let their actions earn it. Let silence prove what words never could. You've got wisdom now. You've got a calmness that comes from experience. Use it. Listen deeply. Feel quietly. And walk away sooner when something feels off. That's not coldness. That's maturity. That's grace. That's you living life on your terms. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Has someone said one of these things to you before? How did it feel? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, please like it, share it with someone you trust, and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life. Every week we bring you wisdom, healing, and strength for this season of life and beyond. Here's to living your truth, protecting your peace, and never settling for less than what your heart knows is real. You've earned this clarity, and no one can take that from you. Stay strong, stay kind, and stay true. See you in the next one.